Welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 556. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Sellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games, brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Every week on the Free Cheese podcast, we discuss a single game, highlight it one at a time, we review it, and then we rank it on a list that we call the list. You can find that list over on thefreecheese.com/the list. This week, we're adding John Romero's Daikatana to the list. More on that later on. Matt, I want to know which video game creator of all time, today, historically, at any period, would you be most excited to hear has their own studio and is making their dream video game?
In a way, I kind of lived this fantasy in a weird way once.
Yeah.
Who else? You know what? Let's go create. What would Todd Howard do?
Interesting.
Or Hugo Martin. All right,
yeah, that's good. Yeah, with limited resources but unbound creativity, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't always work out. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, hold on. We'll talk about Daikatana here, but has it ever worked out? I'm running back through, I think especially in the last decade, we started to see this with Japanese developers leaving companies. And
there's been a lot
they're
of
not
that.
all bad, right? Like, Inafune's Bloodstained, I think, is good, but it's still not as good as those Castlevania games.
I'm thinking of Mighty Number 9 and that creator. I can't think of them.
Of course. Keiji Inafune. But Inafune also got behind, like, some other projects. Like, he was tangentially involved with Armature's Recore. Recore was pretty cool. Armature also made that Batman Metroidvania. Yeah, I don't know. Not all of them have been. Some other,
we're gonna get into it here, I think, but I think expectation just has a huge part of it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, was Death Stranding the thing you'd hoped for, or is it?
I mean, absolutely not, but I enjoyed it at least.
Fair, all right. So the real telling for that is going to be what's his new one called? I don't even remember what the name of the new one's called.
On the Beach.
No, not DS2. I'm talking about his his return to stealth action. No.
I don't know what stealth action game. Was it the one in the Game Awards you're talking about?
No, the one he just announced with Sony a couple months back.
We'll see.
Physint. There it is. PHYSINT. Rolls right off the tongue, just like Metal Gear Solid.
Here we are.
John Romero made Physint quite some time ago. Our game this week, Daikatana, was developed by Ion Storm, published by Eidos, released on the PC, Nintendo 64, and the Game Boy Color, although that was a different version of the game. First released on May 23rd, 2000, so we are just coming up here on the 24th anniversary of the game. The back of the box reads... Man, Matt, this is one of the more difficult ones to read. Visually, for sure, it's this bright orange box with very thin black text, but also the way it's written out here is all over the place. From John Romero, the legendary co-creator of Wolfenstein 3D, the Doom series, Heretic, Hexen, Quake, and now Daikatana. Will you be ready? Two highly trained sidekicks to watch your back. Sorry. That legit broke me. I didn't mean for that to break me so early. More than 50 superior enemies to slice and dice. 25 glorious weapons to collect and utilize. 24 huge levels that span 4 time periods. Superior art superior artificial intelligence, including dialogue between characters, GL accelerated 32-bit graphics, and special real-time lighting effects, killer multiplayer capabilities for free network and low latency internet play at www.idosgames.com. And finally, 18 ear-numbing songs in MP3 format. Time is not on your side. And we've got little screenshots here jumping through 2455 CE Japan, 1200 BCE Greece, 560 CE Norway, and 2030 CE San Francisco. Of course, then we've got, what do you call it here? Images of our three heroes on the back. We've got Hiro, Mikiko, and Superfly posing, of course, with the Daikatana. So we played Daikatana, Matt, for this episode. Why? Over the last few years, we've played Quake. We added Quake 2. Obviously, Season 12, we step in for our third year in a row of playing games and ranking them on the list. We should have played Quake 3. What happened?
Well, they took a break from a single-player campaign. So I figured we'd take a break from a single-player campaign.
And you landed on Daikatana because
it seemed appropriate. Quake 2 engine, why not?
You're not wrong about that. That was something, I don't know how much we'll get into that in the actual breakdown of our experience with playing the game, but part of the Daikatana's history is its troubled development cycle, and part of that is tied to partway through, Romero was at his new company and realized that them putting a game out on the Quake 1 engine while id is putting out Quake 2 on the Quake 2 engine would make his game look very, very outdated. So he wanted to switch over to the Quake 2 engine, which id was happy enough to license out, but it also delayed the game even further. I guess prior to playing Daikatana, what significance did you believe Daikatana to have?
I knew it was this failed attempt at breaking away from id for Mr. Romero. Not until I start picking games for this season did I know the specifics of why the game is not considered that great. But I knew it was one of those games that in history everyone said was bad. And it's gloriously bad because of the famous ad campaign leading up to the release of this game.
Famous or infamous? I don't know.
I think it walks a fine line, to be honest.
Yeah. I will say that I read Romero's book last year, and look, hindsight's 2020, revisionist history, whatever you want to call it. Maybe he's looking back with more delicate eyes than the moment. But he does seem to regret that ad, and he says in the book that he did not want to do that ad. When it was presented to him, he was kind of like, "Really? That's the approach you want to go with here?" But yeah, I mean, there was a bit of that. I mean, Romero was fired from id, and it was publicly known, right? It wasn't a secret that happened. That happened. We talked about that a little bit last year with our Quake 2 episode, but that was a big shakeup during that era. They'd made Quake, and kind of right afterwards, that was when Romero was asked to leave. And he kind of bounced around a bit, but he was those dudes made so much money, and they were, in not just, I think, not even in the niche of who loves video games, but they kind of became pretty iconic. They were all over the place. They had sports cars, and they weren't the only development team to have that, but I think Romero was always classified as video games' first rock star, and I think this was the era that kind of exemplified that the most. So to then kind of couple all of that, and this is all out there, like I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said, obviously, but the history of like him putting a bunch of money into getting flashy offices and all those types of things, and just like kind of breaking out on his own and being a bit more flashy before there was really a game to show for it. And then kind of everyone wondering, well, where is Daikatana? And it just kind of took a few years to get it out there. And then when it did, it didn't land so hot. So I guess without going super into details of what we've played so far, just a brief yes or no, or however you want to answer it. Has your opinion of Daikatana changed now that you've played it?
Yeah, I will lean yes.
Then that leads me to my next question. What is Daikatana?
Oh, it's just an episodic first-person shooter.
An episodic first-person shooter.
Like Doom or Quake.
So we played the PC version.
Yes.
This did come out on Nintendo 64. There are some changes to the N64 version. And in fact, a lot of those changes, they didn't necessarily make the game better, but now in modern day, fans of the game have created a mod or a patch for Daikatana that kind of takes some of the sensibilities behind the 64 version and puts them in the PC version. So we played for this game. Matt specifically, when pitching us playing the game for Season 12, Matt said, we are going to play the 1.3 patch of the game. The big change with this, the game has AI companions, as is all over the back of the box. What the back of the box does not tell you is that those AI companions in the original release of the game have... Is it one-hit death?
Oh, I don't know.
I didn't get far enough without the patch to find out. But it is, if it's not one-hit death, it is very low health. And when they die, it is fail. Return to checkpoint. There's a lot of other things in the original version, but that is one of the critical things that holds back the, like, just general feeling of the game and the ability to feel like you're making meaningful progression, because you can do everything right and the AI wanders off somewhere and suddenly you are reset. I think we've all played games like that, and you know kind of how frustrating that can be and how frustrating that is. So this 1.3 patch fixes that. Past that, I think there's, and I don't know how much of this is in the original version or not, but there's stuff in the 1.3 version that lets you tweak a lot of the like visual settings and things like that you would expect from a PC game. Lastly, and we can jump into this a bit more later, but let's just say it allows you the ability to save infinitely. Because without the patch, you do not have that. Was there anything else significant in the 1.3 patch that I'm missing here in my brief highlighting of it?
You said it addressed the companions, but it kind of gives you multiple options with the companions. Like, you could have them just stay invincible, or you can go and play without them. Which is an option, which is actually, like you said, one of the differences that definitely don't make the game any worse on the N64, but the N64 version did not have the companions. So, in a weird way... That was the key,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're removed from that.
Yeah, so you can make them invincible. You can just play without them. And there's another option I think we're going to talk about later that you can do. It's just a quality of life thing if they are around. And the level.
Oh, that. Yeah. Yeah, the other part, like, you can also install an HD texture pack in case you want to bump that stuff up. They added support for more mouse buttons. I know that's a piece that just stuff like that wasn't in the original, because there's like hardware things that weren't in consideration for the era that this game originally came out in.
Oh, and 16.9, I think it's only available on this as well.
that makes sense. And that would also include like, or not that, but the ability to. I don't know. Were you skipping loading? I don't know if I was skipping. Loading seemed very quick though.
Loading is quick, and that is an improvement here.
Yeah. So yeah, those were the big things added in 1.3, and you kind of went forward with that rather than anything else, specifically because it's been officially blessed by John Romero himself in the years since its release. It's kind of the version that he says helps fix the things that were wrong with the game. I guess to jump in a little bit story-wise, just to set up the background of the game, Daikatana. The game starts in 2455 AD. The world is run by corporations, which seems to be... Not only is that like a common theme in a lot of sci-fi that looks ahead just a few hundred years or whatever, but it's also starting to mirror reality in a little bit, is it not? Although I guess we did see embrace or de-embrace, but also still have. So maybe
follow the money. They didn't de-embrace. They just
changed the name. I got it.
Spin in the money. It goes in a circle.
Yeah. The most powerful corporation is the Mishima Corporation. We open up with who we would later control as our protagonist, Hiro Miyamoto. He's just hanging out in his dojo, practicing his martial arts, when a sick old man appears and says he's a descendant of a group of skilled warriors, and explains that centuries ago, the Mishimas were a powerful clan that part of the group of skilled warriors, the Ebihara clan that this old man is a part of, only they would dare oppose the Mishimas. In response to this opposition, the Mishima clan sought after the ancestor of our protagonist, a legendary swordsmith, and crafted a sword that was so powerful it had the ability to manipulate time itself. The blade was named the Daikatana, and through the blade, the swordsmith saw the evil that would befall the world if it was ever given to the Mishima clan. So the swordsmith gives the Ebihara clan the Daikatana, and they use it to decimate Mishima. The Daikatana was then thrown into a volcano, as are all good things. And you later find out that, Mishima, you went to the center of the volcano, retrieved the Daikatana, and traveled back in time to make his clan powerful once again. So the current timeline that we're in is not the way the world was meant to be. And we are now tasked with fixing it. And that's kind of the set. Did I miss anything there?
No, I think you got it. For all intents and purposes.
That's the basic setup, the premise of it, and then you kind of start the game right in 2455 Japan. You wake up in a marsh, in a coffin, and then you fight your way inside of Mishima's corporation to free your companions. So we slowly, in the first episode here, we get to partner up with Superfly Johnson and Mikiko. I forget Mikiko's last name. I think it's
Ebihara. I think it's Ebihara.
Ebihara, yeah, because she's what's his face is yeah. So why didn't we play Quake 3?
Because they took a break from a single player campaign.
All right, fair
and
enough.
This is very single player campaign heavy.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, so we talk. The back of the box says it. I just kind of described it there in the overview. But the game has time travel. It's still, you're not time traveling at will. You time travel as part of the story per episode. So episode 1 has you in the, just like on the back of the box, future Japan. Then you go to ancient Greece. Then you come a little bit more recent into medieval Norway. And then you go into the near-ish future to San Francisco to see through to the end of the world. Not the end of the world, the end of the game and the resetting of the timeline, so to speak. Kind of the end of the world. Did you have a favorite era playing through the game?
I kind of liked how weird the Norway level got, where it went from like Plague Village and like the icy conditions to like the castle with all like the, I don't want to say wizards because that makes it sound like it's black mages everywhere, but it's like warriors with magical powers. It's like mini bosses and things of that nature. And then I ended up liking the first part of San Francisco, where you're just kind of hanging out in that prison.
Yeah, that was pretty good. You mentioned the weapons. The weapons change in each episode, so, which I was pretty grateful for by the time I got to Greece, because I didn't like the weapons in the first section at all.
Nope.
I don't think there was one that I liked. I'm like looking back, like there's,
nope.
yeah, no. I think there's cool. They look very cool, but the actual use of them, and I think like coming from Quake. And that was the part that I didn't love. It's like, I think you texted me this, right, about the shotgun. Like, oh, good, finally got a shotgun. Oh, wait, every shot blows the clip and you have to wait to reload. There's would you call it a grenade launcher?
It's a mine launcher, right?
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. But it sucks.
Yeah, that first level's not good. That's also not helping this game at all. Like, I don't know, it's been talked at length about how important to the development cycle the 2016, right, Doom?
Mm-hmm.
How important that first like 20 minutes or so, how they nailed that. They can just grab the attention and just kind of carry you forward the rest of the game. And This is the exact opposite of that. The weapons are great. The scenery sucks too. It's just poison swamp. It's just the worst enemies ever.
At first, the look of it, I was like, okay, this is totally different than I was expecting in this game. I didn't think we'd be in a swamp. And I didn't hate it. I was like open-minded to it, and then you're kind of wading through the swamp and working your way around. I'm okay with that. But then when the first round of enemies are
it's like a mosquito,
the dragonflies, mosquitoes, yeah, frogs and alligators, it was like, okay, cool. Yeah, that really turned me off. I was also at that point playing without the patch, which really didn't have an impact. Like, I ended up restarting the game with the patch, and I did that before I'd even gotten to Superfly, so I didn't really get to experience any of the bad stuff yet, right?
Right.
But still, it's just like, I did experience the like, oh, I don't have enough save gems to save the game or do quick saves, because I don't know about you.
I used the save gems. I
the whole
leaned
way
into the
through.
system. I leaned into the system, yeah.
Gross, dude. See, okay. Were you playing for like long stretches of time?
To start the game, no. It was very hard to keep me going. But once we got going, like once we hit Greece here, I would say I'm doing at least multiple missions, and not the entire part in one sitting.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. By the time you get through that opening area and you do get to Greece, it's a little better in terms of like, you know, palpability. And I guess like, yeah, by the end of this game, I ended up liking it more than I did when I'd started it, or thought that I would after playing the first little bit of it. But what am I trying to say? I don't know, with the saving specifically, just to stay on that for a second. When I play Quake, Doom, any of that stuff, I've just gotten in the habit of like quick saving when I get to a new mission or a new map, right? Like as soon as I like roll over, I see the success screen, how many secrets, all the stuff, and I roll into the next thing, quick save, and then I start. That way, when I die, I'm right there with my weapons, and I don't have to worry about resetting and going to find everything. So to not have that was like such a bummer. But thankfully with the 1.3 patch, I was able to.
So the only thing I don't know, because I was honoring the save thing, but every time you change, not missions, but maps inside the mission, I got saves that way. It auto-saved. So I'm not sure that was part of it. So maybe I didn't.
Sure.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that was part of 1.3 or that was.
That could be inherent to the game. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't want to sit here and say, oh, I just, you know, I had my 3 save count at a time or whatever. It was saving automatically between missions and map changes within a mission.
Yeah, okay. Did you expect much puzzle solving going into Daikatana?
I don't know. Maybe not as much as there was, but I was expecting it. I remember Doom and, you know, having to go all around the maps to hit switches or grab a key card. And my only complaint here was I think there was just some expected things you just go up to the wall and like hit that just didn't seem like it was the thing to hit. Where I was, you know, I have to say I played most of this without a walkthrough. There was a couple areas where I was like, I'm doing this. Yeah, I had like just double check myself. But it seemed like those puzzles were part of it. There's one in particular in San Francisco. There is, you're like going up like this. I think it's like a furnace, and you're cutting in and out. And at the very tippity top, there's a lot of platforming going on. I think there's one thing you have to shoot. Like there's like something that's hanging down, and you have to realize, oh, you can climb that. There's not a lot of that in this game. And then you climb it, and then you see this ladder, and it's stuck, and it's by a rope. And I'm like, all right, well, obviously you probably got to bring that down. So I'm like looking for a switch up there. I don't see it. I tried shooting the rope like at the midway point, didn't work. Tried shooting it at the wall, didn't work. So then I go down and I'm like looking for a switch in like the little jail area where this furnace is. Can't find anything. So it's been like 10 minutes now at this point, and now I'm just like, all right, I gotta look it up. I just didn't shoot the right piece of rope. It was like dumb little things like that. I had to shoot the rope where it was connected to the ladder, not anywhere else.
And it's that that stuff I found like throughout the game, and it was frustrating where I relied on a guide a lot. I was trying to like make my way through because there is something super satisfying about these types of games where you don't look anything. I mean, any game, when you don't look something up and you figure it out, you feel smart for having done it. You feel accomplished. You feel like you earned it. And I did not feel that often in this. There was like one stage in the Greece area that I felt like, I forget what it was. One of the parts you have to swim down. I don't remember.
Did you have to like, go in like a statue pond or something like that and then swim down?
I think that was the one. Yeah, like that one I remember figuring out on my own and feeling like, oh, I did it. And then the next level or whatever, it wasn't long after that I was like stumped again. I was like, all right, let me look this up because I'm having a bad time.
There's one about like, I think there's a switch on a, this is in Norway, where I think it's Plague Village specifically. There's a, you get to this graveyard, and there's a gate you have to open. Little did you know, there's a switch in one of the graves in the middle of it. Like, the grave didn't really stand out much either. Like,
No, and you're not encouraged to like explore the graveyard specifically. Like, it makes sense if you're wandering through each. You know what I mean? Like going.
Yeah,
through,
and then it's like the areas before too. Like, but all before that, you're in a giant church where it's like
right.
you're being told there is a secret corridor in this church. So like, there's part of me is like, is the switch for this gate in that corridor, or there's a few things that like. There's like enough distraction in the level design to not make you think, oh, is this thing as plain as day? You're chasing the distractions more so than maybe more so like just thinking like, yeah, there's probably a switch in his graveyard,
and not necessarily for like. I think, like Romero was instrumental in making the best maps in Doom, right? And like usually those distractions that you would go on in Doom, you're rewarded with something, right? There's a monster closet, or there's a key card down that way, or a secret area, or a weapon that you get earlier than you should have. Like, I forget what level it is in Doom now, but there's stuff where early on you get like the super shotgun way before it's like an obvious pickup. And it's awesome. And it rules, but like, I don't know, I didn't find much of that in here. Not too frequently. Here and there were little surprises, little secrets, but they felt fewer. But I do think that the other interesting component of this game, besides it being a first-person shooter, is that it's loaded with RPG elements, which was different. I think today, to hear a game has RPG elements, I think people who weren't around to grow up and watch the way that all of this stuff has naturally worked its way into video games wouldn't even know what RPG elements we're talking about. But having lived through it and seen through it, I think it's like everyone knows what we're talking about, right? There's all of these things, these stat points, you're leveling up certain pieces of your character or elements of your character's stats as you progress through a game, as in an RPG, and that stuff just is in every game now, but it was not always. And I do think Daikatana was one of the earlier examples of trying to cross those genres a bit or bring those pieces in. And I think stepping back, like, as I found myself getting frustrated with puzzles and things like that, like stepping back and realizing, well, hold on, I'm leveling up. Like, this is a different game. It's not meant to be Quake 2 or Quake 3 or whatever. It's meant to be Daikatana. And realizing, like, okay, think of it like a first-person RPG that happens to be in the Quake engine, which I guess had I played like Hexen or Heretic or anything like that, you might get a little bit more of that because those were doing things in that manner. But I don't know. What do you think of this game compared to other RPGs of the era or things that have come since? If you think about like the Morrowinds and Oblivions and Skyrims of the world to come.
Really, when I was playing, it was in the back. It was in the back of my mind. I didn't really like focus on the levels when they came. I didn't even know how to do them. I had to like assign keys to like the quick level. Yeah. So like, I don't know. Like after I discovered like the keys weren't even mapped for it, I was like, well, like how serious is this game taking it? And then I just kind of mapped everything to like I alternated between attack and power until they were both maxed. And then I think I went, the rest of my points as I got them went into the vitality.
Yeah.
That was my build, because but like, I don't think there is much of a difference. I think, you might have to shoot an enemy 2 more times if you don't have attack or power or a combination of the two, with enough points. Sure, it might be easier to do some platforming if you have your, acro, which I'm assuming was for acrobats. Acrobatics, whatever. Yeah. Like I'm sure some of that. I'm stumbling my words. Some of that jumping, some of that platforming would be better if you had 3 points instead of 1 or something like that. But it didn't really do anything for me, and I didn't think much of it compared to other games from that time either.
Yeah. Not to be that, but I mean, when you look at this versus Quake 2, I mean, what do you see in this that you do or don't see in Quake 2, and for better or for worse?
I think I think storytelling. Whether or not you end up getting invested or not, I mean, there are cutscenes with voice acting, and there's some effort in the story. I would say there was some unexpected. The end I did not see coming, to be completely transparent. Like the very, very end.
Really?
No, I didn't. No, I don't want to get into it for someone that hasn't played it, but
yeah.
I really didn't see it coming. I mean, yeah, it probably writings on the wall if I go back now and watch, but like I just wasn't expecting it. And then no, like, you know, so like storytelling's a big part of it. The cutscenes. You know, Quake 2 is kind of the same aesthetically all throughout the game. This, I mean, it takes advantage of its episodes and the, you know, it's world building. Like, you can time travel with this sword. Why not take advantage of it? And they did. I think there's 4 distinct areas that, you know, I could see a screen from Daikatana and be like, oh, that is episode 1. And then I would see a screen from Quake 2, and I probably couldn't tell you what episode you're on.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I had a moment, and this is a bit more like when we look at the art direction of the game, but last year I went to a museum, and it had an exhibit that was all, it was 3 different eras. It was ancient Rome, ancient Greece, and ancient Egypt, and it had art and all this stuff from that, and they even made it so that, like, you know, when you walked through the Greek section, they put pillars in, and the floors you were walking on were all like meant to resemble that. It was meant to feel like you're walking through what felt like ancient Greece. And it was a cool exhibit. I had a good time wandering through it and stuff like that, but I haven't thought about it at all since, until playing this game. And I remember like walking through, I don't know, first or second level in the Greece area and just kind of flashing back to being in that museum exhibit. And I was like, huh, it was one of those spots in the level where you're kind of like winding around a little, like, not staircase, but like a ramp. And you're just kind of like going deeper into the, I don't want to call them catacombs, but you know, that kind of thing. And I just remember feeling like they really like paid it. It feels like you're in Greece. I don't know, at least what I imagine Greece to feel like. Like, I don't know. I do appreciate, to your point, the eras of it, the like visual differences, the fact that it does try something here. It's not necessarily just here's a sci-fi shooter. Yeah, anything else gameplay wise that we didn't cover yet you want to hit on?
No, nothing that we haven't covered. Yeah, no, we're good.
We talked about the story. We talked about any of the weapons we didn't cover that, you know, stand out for you from moment to moment. Were there any weapons you ended up actually liking? Because I know all I said so far was that I didn't like the weapons in Era 1, but
I ended up really liking the weapon set in San Francisco. I think that's just because it's like standard guns to a degree. And then 3, the first bit's fine, but the staff weapons you end up getting towards the end, where you're shooting straight up fireballs and lightning, and then the one kills you or does significant damage, and then it goes away. Yeah, Nars Nightmare or whatever. Was that all that was supposed to happen?
I never looked to check.
Or were you supposed to charge that? Because when you get the weapon, there's that cutscene where he's like, it feels like I'm holding evil, or it's something along those lines. So I didn't know. I don't know if it's you had to do something with it to make it, or you had to use it in a specific boss battle or whatever. But there's like a not too long after that, actually might be like the next section. You're like going up this chimney, and there's a dragon at the top of it, and I went to shoot the dragon with that thing just to see what would happen, and then it kills me. I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
This is if it's a proximity thing. So if you're the only target within the radius, you're the one that's hit. But if there are other enemies in the radius, then it will attack the enemy. So you might not have been close enough to...
No, I definitely was.
Yes. Yeah, no, I thought those were cool. I think especially compared to the trident in Greece and the other one that I forget the name of. Venomous, maybe?
Oh, the Venomous is terrible.
Am I thinking of the right thing?
That's the poison thing. That's the serpents.
Oh, yeah, no, that's the one. Yeah. I mean, it sucks, but it was cool. Like, conceptually cool. And
it's cool. It does nothing. It's terrible.
Conceptually cool.
I got three of the worst things in the world to me. Three of these huge, humongous jumping spiders chasing me. I'm squirting a venom that does absolutely nothing.
Okay, it looks cool, and when you click shoot, stuff sprays out. I guess you're right. Yeah, it doesn't do much. I was much happier to have the...
Hades' hammer was cool with the statue things. You had to use it for the statues.
Okay, that was... Yeah.
And I used the discus of...
I was so sad to get to Norway. Is it Norway?
I think Norway's next, yeah.
I was so sad to get there and then not have the discus any longer. Because that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, especially once you get 8 or 9, you're throwing them in the air. And yeah, no, they were fun.
But you're right. I think San Francisco, the Glock was great. Just the standard weapon.
It felt good to shoot. Maybe it's because everything else is so weird when you got back to standard handgun.
Yeah. It felt to me like the, is it the PP7 in GoldenEye?
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah. Otherwise, gameplay stuff. I guess controls. I mean, was there anything weird control-wise?
Half the shit wasn't mapped, but besides that, no.
Did you have fun playing the game?
Yes. After the first level, yes, very much.
All right, good. Let's talk a little bit about the visuals and the sound before we, get near our final thoughts. But yeah, visuals. I mean, I mentioned it, but like art direction wise, I do feel like you felt like you were in those eras to an extent. I think the first one, it's very like obviously the marsh is the marsh, but you get inside of the actual corporation and you're moving around, and it does kind of feel, to your point, like a Quake 2-ish. Like you're just inside of a facility, and it just kind of feels like that. Albeit it has its own different, you're working your way eventually through like the cryogenics lab, and it has its own look and feel, which I think are varied enough. But then to be suddenly transported to not just ancient Greece, because I think also when you think of like, hey, you're going to be in Greece in a video game, you have a certain expectation, but this was like bright. Like that first level where you're on the beach, you're on the shore with the Daikatana, like it is just stark. I think especially after like everything's kind of like dark and moody in the stage before, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know, when I first got there, I felt like it was like, I thought the patch screwed with something. Or, you know what I mean? I was like, did they, like, is this a level that was like cut that wasn't supposed to, like, I didn't realize I know it's on the back of the box, but I didn't look at that until I did not realize we were actually going to.
Yeah, that was like refreshing to see like your first enemy was a skeleton, like with a sword and shield, and you're like, okay, maybe this is better. I knew the spiders were in the game. When I was cutting footage for my reveal video last year, that's when I saw them, and I did contemplate if I should cut the game, but I was too far into the
bit.
The bit, yeah, there was a lot of time sink in the bit to change it on the fly.
But yeah, I mean, past that, what do you think of the graphics in the game?
I think they look good. It's tough to. The only thing that's tough to do is it's more appropriate to probably judge it against stuff coming out at that time, which I don't remember a lot. I was 8, and then the other part of it is like we are on 1.3. I am playing this in 16:9 in 1440. Like there are some like bumps I'm getting that I'm sure, others at the time did not have. So I don't know where brightness comes into play. Not to say like the sun wasn't supposed to be that bright, but I'm sure some levels got some bumps in brightnesses or in contrast from the original game. Probably, especially if you're playing on an N64. I mean, I know the Doom 64 port is notoriously dark, so I'm going to assume Daikatana is the same.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so hey, there's stuff like that. That the modern person like, but I think we played Quake 2 last year with some mods. I was playing some of it in with ray tracing to see the differences in how light.
Oh yeah.
And I think it compares, but of course it's the Quake 2 engine, so it would make sense.
And then in terms of sound, each area has its own unique kind of soundscape, which I don't know. Overall, everything kind of felt complimentary, but did you have any standouts sound-wise?
I feel like there was I didn't make note of it, of course, but I feel like there was a couple tracks while playing that stood out at the time, but nothing I can remember now. But like again, it's very, I don't know, no track ever was like, oh, track 1 or 2 from Quake 1 with 9 Inch Nails, and then Cyber Mayhem with Quake 2. Like, nothing ever had that impact, from what I remember.
Conversely, how about the voice acting?
It was fine for the era.
Yeah. No, I feel like that did leave an impact on me, is my point. Like, I think I was happy there was voice acting. There was none of that. It's hard to not just compare this to Quake, but yeah, I mean, there wasn't any in Quake that I remember, right?
So this is the problem that I think I have. Like, the voice acting's great. I'm glad there's cutscenes. They're way too long for a game like this, I think.
Yeah. It slows everything down. You're right.
The first cutscene, especially, like, you play all these other games, just like Doom, Quake. Like so many of these different first-person shooters at a time.
Doom 2, Quake 2.
Probably Quake 3. I don't know. Stay tuned next year. It took so long to get into that first level, and I was like, come on. And then you showed me what your first level is, your first hand, and you showed me a marsh with poison frogs.
And when you get to, like, I don't know, a good chunk of that level in, and you die and you need to restart again because you didn't have a save gem and you didn't whatever, and you have to... Thankfully, you can skip the cutscenes. But...
Yes, yeah.
Because that speeds things up.
So this isn't terrible spoilers. I did accidentally skip a cutscene because I went to pause the game, and I did
that so many times.
I straight up skipped. It's when you get to, you leave the prison in San Francisco and you go to like the first area, I think it's outside the lab maybe.
Yeah, okay.
It's when you're in the boat getting away from the prison.
Okay.
Something happens, there's someone chasing you, and that's when I think my phone went off, and someone called me, I hit escape, and I was like, oh, fuck. And then, I did whatever on my phone, came back, and then I noticed, like, Superfly wasn't there.
Oh.
And I was like, well, I guess, is he gone?
Yeah. No,
well, and then I totally meant to go back to watch that scene at some point later. And then it kind of gets explained what happens again down the road, but it doesn't happen like for 2 missions. Essentially, like it's not even like super late game. I just kept forgetting to go back and watch that scene on YouTube if I could find it. But yeah, no, I skipped the cutscene, and all of a sudden, one of my companions is now gone. It's like, oh, whoops.
I had that so many times, like more than I can remember. Even the bit getting to the beach for the first time, I had to restart that level so I could redo the. I mean, thankfully it was there, but like I straight up did the old console command to like jump to a level, and I jumped back to Greece after I'm like wandering through. I think that was another reason why it was so stark for me, because it was like I completely missed that opening scene that triggers.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess the end of episode 1.
Yeah, because it kind of like you see a bit, but then like it technically transitions to episode 2, and I accidentally skipped that. It's a mess. But yeah, I also felt like just while we're on sound stuff, the overall like weapon. As much as I didn't like the feel of all the weapons, I do feel like everything had good sound to them. It all felt fitting. Everything worked in the world. Now, I do think that in the end, ultimately with Daikatana, you kind of end up with a game that it knows what it is, and it built that world. It has a believable enough world for as outlandish as it might seem. I guess the only other, we have not talked at all about the titular Daikatana. So maybe we do that before we get ready and rank this.
Why? Because you don't use it?
Use it sometimes.
Oh, at the very beginning of Greece when you had nothing else and you had to chop down some skeletons? And then you found a discus and you were like, oh, this thing's fucking awesome.
I kept reverting back to the Daikatana there, though, for a while, because I know that the whole point of it is so that you use it to level it up. And
remember those RPG mechanics I said? Oh, the backside? Yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah, you're right. Overall, what did you think of the game? Was there anything you... Yeah. I guess let's do that. Overall, what did you think?
With the asterisks of, 1.3, the mod, which is... Yeah, I say mod, and sometimes that scares people. It's very easy to install on... did you install on Mac, or did you play on PC? Like on Windows?
No, it was on PC.
So super easy on PC. I think it's just as easy on Mac from like the brief instructions I saw on it.
Yeah, it probably is. The only thing in terms of like playing this today, I will say the Mac version is not on Steam. I think it's on GOG. I can look that up while you run through. But yeah,
but the mod is good for Apple Silicon, which I was shocked to see that, to be honest. But no, all right. So yeah, with that asterisk of you need the mod. I like this game. I actually really ended up really enjoying it. I think there's some optimization things I wish I knew about about the main game before just kind of committing to it. One of the issues, I'm just going to throw this out here right now. One of the issues with 1.3, with if you're using, with the sidekicks being invincible or not there are a ton of health pickups. Because that's targeted for some of that to be your teammates. I would recommend playing at, I think Shogun is the highest level of the 3. I would probably recommend playing on that level if you're using this mod with the sidekicks being not there or invincible. I think some of the later levels were a bit too easy compared to like how the game started. There was one section of the game I really struggled in the first episode, and I thought I was going to struggle the rest of the way, but I ended up getting out of it, and I never really struggled again after that. And I think it's because I started to get like more sidekicks, and then that means more health pickups, and stuff like that. So yeah, that would be my only suggestion. I played the middle level. So again, I found it maybe a touch easy compared to some of the other counterparts we've compared it to. But besides that, I enjoyed the game. I once I got out of episode 1, I liked Greece a lot. I liked most of Norway. Yeah, I like San Francisco. I like San Francisco kind of gets samey because you start to get into labs at the end of the game, but
it feels like you're back in,
But like the weapon set works so much better than it did in episode 1 that I don't feel bad being there. So
yeah.
No, I like him. Will this ever be Game of the Year material? No, but I think this is still a solid game. Which, if you can find it on sale, I'm sure it drops to obscene prices. It's not a bad
I
playthrough.
remember the price that we got it for, and it is currently on sale. At least we're recording this just before it'll go live for everyone, but it's currently on sale for 97 cents. So
It's absolutely worth the play for 97 cents.
Yeah, I think so too. I do not see the Mac version on GOG. It's just Windows, but there's a source port for Daikatana you can find on some dude's GitHub. So, that probably seems okay.
What's
Yeah. Were there any frustrations you didn't get to vent about, or any things that stood out that were particularly cool?
I just know as one of those games, sometimes I get so zoned into a game that I forget to take notes. So I really have 2 notes. First one, why is this intro so long?
Yeah.
2 missions and I'm not having fun. Episode 1. So got all my talking points out.
Yeah, my initial notes were, I like the premise and the way the game opens, but then to be in a future swamp being attacked by bugs and frogs kind of dampens the experience. I didn't mean to intentionally put damp in that, but there you have it. Yeah, I guess why didn't we play Quake 3? No. I'm with you. I ended up liking this more than I did. My score is kind of all over the place, actually. I did find some frustration with just general navigation and kind of knowing where to go, which I have that in Quake games anyway, but I think the difference is there's no map in this game, right? I couldn't, unless it just wasn't attached to a key that I was hitting.
I never used the map.
But for me, I don't know, maybe I'm just used to that with certain later ports of Doom, but just hitting M and being able to look and where am I? Okay, got it. It felt very disoriented a lot, which made it difficult to do, I don't know, the puzzle solving that it wanted me to do. And then while the 1.3 patch fixed some of the nightmare stuff with the companions dying, or you can remove them entirely, and of course did some other things, it doesn't fix the fact that companions must still be at your side when you reach the end of a level, or kind of the next, whenever you're transitioning through a level to another load. And if there were parts where I didn't even realize that I was separated from one or the other of them, where I would go to move and just can't leave without my buddy Superfly Johnson. Not Johnson, but can't leave without my buddy Superfly. Can't leave without my buddy Superfly. I'd have to go and backtrack and find him and then walk all the way back to where I just came from. And that sucked and really.
Well, I never turn on the option, and a lot of stuff with the mod, you have to start a new game to make major changes. You said he turned on the teleport, right? And it just wasn't working for you?
I thought I turned it on, but maybe I didn't.
Okay.
Because it never,
Okay.
Yeah.
Because teleport is an option. I don't know. I didn't use this. I don't know if it works or how well it works.
Okay.
But yeah, I did not turn it on, and that is a little bit frustrating. Especially some of those levels get really windy, and where they got stuck at is how you have open area to the right and to the left, and you're walking into this pole and jumping repeatedly. Why?
Yeah. So there was a good bit, I would say, in it happened in every area. I don't even want to exclude one, where I would just get to a point where, but I think especially in Greece and some of the more complex things or whatever, I was okay, no clip, and I'd just no clip my way back through until I found them, and then I'd turn off no clip and then work my way back to the end, just do it that way. It sucked, but I also I wasn't gonna physically backtrack through everything, because some of the things too, you've already opened a door, moved through a ladder, you've done different things or whatever that to reverse that. I was nope, pulling this up, and
I was just hitting my follow button. I'm just hoping they would call. Just hoping they would just come or yell or whatever.
I didn't even pick up on that. I probably should, yeah. So I guess if you're going to play it, read a bit more about the 1.3 stuff. Make sure when you set up your game you know exactly what was wrong with it to begin with and how to correct it before you start. Because that did impact my score a bit in the gameplay and overall enjoyment department, I'd say. But I thought the game looked good. I thought it sounded good. I like what is here, despite, it having some shortcomings. With that, we're going to rank this. Because that's what we do every week. You can follow along with our rankings over on thefreecheese.com/thelist. Daikatana will be our 94th game to get added to the list. Just going to keep it right around here since Matt said there's no way this is top 10 material. Yeah, I mean, I think you're higher on it than I am. And I'm thinking...
Sorry, my view was all messed up of the list. I'm looking now.
Do you like this better than Gravity Rush?
Yes.
Do you like this better? Okay, that might be my line, actually. I like Obscure better than this.
What numbers are those again?
Right now,
that
Obscure
goes
is 60.
Jeez, Obscure 60? That game's better than that.
Yeah, but I like Obscure better than this.
No, I meant Obscure at 60 is a crime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what we did, man. I don't know. My score I think all of our scores are kind of low on Obscure. Maybe there was something weird with that game that we aren't remembering.
The absolute dumbass beginning, that guy chasing his gun.
There's that.
Yeah, for no reason at all, maybe. Or maybe I gave it a point because that was awesome.
That could have been it too.
No, it was the shotgun in like the janitor's room, I thought.
Yeah, that was right at the start of the game. I think that game had some weird navigation stuff. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, you see, I'm higher than it, but when I start to look up, there's not much
I know.
I think that will put it in front of. I think my score.
That's my problem.
I think my score would say otherwise when I start to see the scores around here, but yeah, I think I'm living right in this area at the end of the day.
Yeah, because it's like when I look at it, I'm like, well, I think I like this better than Costume Quest II.
Yeah.
But then, like, I don't know, but I like Amplitude and Shin-Chan better than this.
Yeah, like
I know I was kind of the
I like Game Dev Story better than this. I think I like Metal Gear Acid despite not finishing it. I definitely like Snatcher more than it.
Yeah.
I think like this Proteus versus this game for me is just a matter of preference, but I think they're equal on some equal footing.
Yeah. Do you like this over Slugfest?
Yes. Yeah. I think maybe it's the new 61.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of where I was. Yeah. There you have it. The new 61. Congratulations to John Romero's Daikatana. It is better than Slugfest, worse than Obscure. Matt, what do we got coming up? We got some video games here.
Go back to the PSP.
We'll throw a few out. Yeah, we're coming back around to the PSP. We got some interesting stuff here for the month of May. This is our first episode of May. But we're coming back to the PSP next week with Siphon Filter, Logan's Shadow. The week after that, we're going to do an episode dedicated to the arcade. Matt and I
We're gonna rank the arcade against all these.
Yeah, we're gonna rank. Where does the arcade rank? No, we've got some plans for that one. Physically going to arcade in 2024 and bringing you a live report on the state of that.
Breaking Billy Mitchell's fake record.
Yeah,
cheers.
Easy enough. And then we're going to close out the month with our second episode on Halo Combat Evolved. This time focused on the multiplayer and kind of the culture surrounding it in Halo. And we might also have a little bonus in that episode as well, so stay tuned for that. So that's our look at May. And of course, we're sticking with our monthly streams, so we'll be doing that later on. I believe May 26th is the date that we have for that. We'll remind you over the next few weeks here. But come back and hang out with us for that as Matt plays through a Sega Genesis game. So yeah. Everything else is over on thefreecheese.com. You can email us, podcast@thefreecheese.com. Follow us on co-host. I think that's the only thing left. So jot that down. We're on Tumblr as well. So if you like either Tumblr or co-host, two very similar approaches to social media, get at us. Otherwise, honestly, everything we do is over on thefreecheese.com. So check that out there. Until next week, thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. Bye.